everyone, it's me, Max, and today I am going to be reacting to what is Isaac was in Smash. Sorry, I already started the video a little.
So, I don't know what to do in terms of a friendly intro for this guy, so...
What? Ow, that got hurt.
Yeah.
I wonder why it's called with 2 A's. That's my wonder. Oh, that's a lot of numbers. Oh. Okay, that's a lot of characters.
A couple of quick warnings. This game is not for the faint of heart. It is pretty graphic and very much not for those with a queasy stomach. To alleviate this, some footage used in this video will have its color taken away. So apologies if that bothers anybody, but that's just how I'm going to be handling these types of characters. Overall, viewer discretion is heavily advised. The young boy...
You heard him. If you get really scared easily, please click off this video. And if you're not, you're in luck. Let's do this.
Who never stops crying. Isaac, from the Binding of Isaac. Of course, there's a reason why this poor kid is constantly crying. I mean, I probably would too if I had to be on the run from my own mother who was trying to sacrifice me.
Wait, what?
To run through a forever-changing maze, filled with all kinds of demons and other things that I will not be talking about in this video for reasons that are not safe for good boys and girls. Just know that his mother has convictions that causes poor Isaac's life to be in danger.
Wait,
He's not
what?
without defenses, though he does need to find them first during his travels in the depths. But regardless, when coming to Super Smash Bros., he'll have plenty of tools to work with when going up against the many other contenders of the Smash world. Though to get this out of the way now, this will be a fairly toned-down moveset in the context of Binding of Isaac for very obvious reasons. That's just how it be. In any which case, Isaac will be a pretty light character with some quick but almost slippery mobility. He'd have 2 jumps, and he would be able to crawl. For those who've never played Binding of Isaac, it's a top-down dungeon crawling shooter game. And what does Isaac use to shoot? Well, quite morbidly, his own eyeballs.
What?
Waterworks pouring down from his face, that's his main means of attack. Tear shots. And guess what? That'll be his main means of attack for Smash as well, as it'll be what he does for the majority of his attacks. He shoots tear shots straight forwards for his jab, side tilt, down tilt, neutral aerial, and forward aerial. For the down tilt specifically, it'll be shots closer to the ground, and since he can crawl, this would be one of his more reliable ways to be able to shoot while moving backwards. To shoot straight upwards, he uses his up tilt and his up air. Using his back air will have him turn around to shoot backwards, and he'll shoot straight downwards for his down air. He can only shoot into straight cardinal directions, never diagonally, and he'll only ever shoot 1 tear shot per attack button press. He's designed like he is from his base game, as a full shooter character to rack up damage to his foes from a distance. Every tear shot is weak for the most part, dealing very small flinching damage, and the rate of fire is kinda slow, being able to shoot only 2 tear shots a second. But it's overall designed like this to allow Isaac to be constantly firing his tears while also staying mobile. You never want to stand still too long with Isaac. And this applies for both Smash as well as his own game. So he'll very much be like a version of Mega Man, except if Mega Man shot his Buster for most of his attacks as opposed to his wider Robot Master Weapons collection. For his other attacks, this can have him use a select few of the various items that Isaac can find throughout his game. The dash attack can have him use Ares, a power-up that gives Isaac ram horns and allows him to deal damage to foes if he runs into them. For Smash, the horns will quickly grow on Isaac's head and he'll lunge forwards with a quick goat tackle. Then the horns will disappear right after the attack concludes. It's a decently strong attack that launches foes on contact. For his side smash, this technically will be another tier attack, but it'll have Isaac unleash a tier explosion right in front of his face.
Ouch, that's gonna hurt.
By the blundering glass. It has a bit of disjoint, as well as some end lag as Isaac composes himself afterwards. I can only imagine how much it must hurt to force yourself to cry that much. His up smash can have him use the Crack in the Sky. This is a feather that allows Isaac to summon multiple beams of light that rain down from the sky to deal big damage to enemies. For Smash, he holds up the feather and backs up into the Z-axis. Then a light beam quickly strikes down into the spot where he was standing. The Crack in the Sky up smash is comparable to that of Palutena's up smash, appropriate enough considering both of their holy origins. It's quick to come out, launches foes on contact, but it does have some end lag. And unlike Palutena's, it's a little smaller due to Isaac being smaller, so as such, the horizontal range for this smash will be pretty poor. And finally, for Isaac's down smash, this will also be a tier explosion like his forward smash, except he'll be utilizing the item called Mom's Eye. Referring to the old saying that mothers have eyes in the back of their heads, this has a literal eye appear in the back of Isaac's head.
Whoa!
It allows him to shoot his tier shots backwards at the same time.
That is weird!
Forward.
That is very weird!
One eye will appear on the back of his head, and he'll shoot 2 tier blasts on both
What
sides
the
of himself.
heck?
However, they will be smaller than the blast made by his side smash. But just like his side smash, there will be a bit of end lag as he composes himself, as well as to let that eye on the back of his head disappear. Isaac's grabs and throws will be fairly pitiful, what with his stubby little arms. He can grab with both of them and pummel by headbutting his
Ow.
foe. His forward throw can have Isaac do a single clumsy spin before tossing the foe forwards. The back throw can have him struggle to lift the foe overhead and then chuck them backwards. The up throw can be a simple throw upwards, and the down throw can have him do a single jump on the foe to rack up their damage before they're bounced away.
The B attacks.
For Isaac's neutral special, this can have him lay another one of his most common weapons aside from his tiers, and that would be bombs.
What?
He'll simply lay a bomb on the ground in the spot where he was standing, or drop it straight down if used in the air. These bombs will automatically explode after 2 seconds or if they make contact with a player, and this does include Isaac, by the way. He can be hurt by his own bombs. He can have up to 2 bombs on screen at a time, and if he tries to lay a third, then nothing will happen. For his side special, this will have Isaac do a sliding tackle forwards, and when he does, he'll leave Creep on the ground. Creep and Binding of Isaac are puddles of various liquids left behind by enemies or even Isaac if he has the right item, and stepping into the creep will cause an effect to the one who stepped in it, with one effect happening depending on its color. In this case, the creep that Isaac leaves behind when he slides forward will be blue, representing his tiers and as if he had the Aquarius item. This blue creep is slippery to walk on for everyone except for Isaac, with characters losing traction while walking on it. The sliding tackle itself does deal some decent damage to foes if they're in Isaac's way. It can be used for horizontal recovery, but it does put him into free fall if he uses it in the air. With that said, if used in the air, the creep created by it will just fall straight down from the flown path, which will create puddles on the ground if used over the stage, which could allow for the creep to be more spread out if platforms are involved. This falling creep won't hurt foes if it falls above them, but it will disrupt them a little bit, acting as a sort of weak wind box. Finally, only one creep puddle can be on stage at a time. If the side special is used again when a creep is already on stage, then the prior creep will just evaporate. Now for Isaac's up special, this can have him unleash the power of the Holy Grail, which grants him the ability to fly.
Whoa!
This will be a fairly standard recovery up special, as it'll have Isaac grow angel wings and fly straight into any upwards angled direction. He can go slightly horizontally with it left or right, but for the most part, he'll always gain height. Makes sense in context of it being the Holy Grail and all. By itself, this special deals no damage, and it does put Isaac into freefall after using it. However, he's not totally defenseless, because if you tap the attack button mid-flight, it'll have Isaac shoot some tiers straight into the direction that he's flying into. And they fly slightly faster than he does, so they can be used to possibly thwart any foe that may be trying to interrupt his ascension. And finally, for Isaac's down special, this won't do anything.
What?
That's right, if you use it, absolutely nothing will happen. At first. Here's the thing. I'm sure that many of you are thinking that this moveset sounds pretty lacking. Well, there's a pretty big reason for that. Since everything that I just described to you up till now will be Isaac's moveset when he first gets started. In other words, it's his base moveset. That's right, guys! It's gimmick time! For those who have never played The Binding of Isaac, the best way for me to describe it truthfully is RNG the game.
What?
Literally every new floor Isaac reaches is a totally new and random layout, and it changes for every subsequent playthrough. But that's not all that's random. The enemies, bosses, items, and even the power-ups are all in completely random spots. It's never the same. So as such, more likely than not, your power and attack build as Isaac will hardly ever be even remotely identical between two playthroughs. He'll always be using different things to help him on his journey. So, I would like to take that gimmick that he has in his own game and incorporate it into a gimmick for his
Oh, that's
Smash
creepy.
moveset. Once the match starts, Isaac will be pretty bare. Metaphorically. I mean, he is bare literally too, but you know what? I'm not even going down that rabbit hole. Randomly throughout the whole match, items from Isaac's games will drop on the stage in the same fashion as usual Smash items. Unlike normal items, though, only Isaac can interact with them. They may as well not even be there for his opponents. All Isaac has to do to obtain one is touch it. He doesn't need to pick it up, just make contact with it is all. And when he does pick it up, he gains that item's power. It also slightly changes his appearance as well to let you know what items he currently has. An item will spawn on a random part of the stage every 10 seconds, but only 3 items can exist on stage at a time, and no more will appear until one of them currently available is picked up by Isaac. There's no other way to get rid of them. He has to pick them up, which could be bad depending on what you want, because here's the thing. Some items may override ones that you currently have depending on what type of items they are. If you have a build that you're going for, but find that none of the 3 items currently available are desirable, or will make you lose an item that you already have, you may have to make the difficult decision of giving up something that you already have to make sure that you can keep getting other useful items. Or you could be happy with what you have and just choose to avoid the 3 items entirely to keep what you got. Of course, your opponents could be rude and purposefully hit you into those undesired items, forcing you to pick them up. That could lead to some funny situations. But that's the basic gist of the items. Now let's go ahead and get into the items that Isaac can find. Strap in, folks. There is a hefty amount of them, and I'll be organizing them into 3 different categories: tier, special, and other. And these categories will have subcategories as well. So let's waste no more time and get right into them. The tier category of items will solely consist of things that will change the attributes of all of Isaac's tier attacks. That's why I made so many attacks based on the tiers. In terms of these tier-based items, I'll be separating them into tiers for her. There are 3 tiers in total. Tier 1 will consist of items that affect the tiers based on their range or speed. The first item will be the lump of coal. This will make it so that Isaac's tiers will get stronger the farther they fly. When he has this, it'll show Isaac's face covered in soot. The next item can be Mom's heels. These will increase how far Isaac's tiers will fly when shot. This actually shows Isaac wearing the heels, as much as it must suck to do so. And the final item in Tier 1 can be the Torn Photo, which will actually increase the firing rate of Isaac's tiers, making them come out faster. This item will make Isaac look even sadder than usual.
What?
I feel bad. Anyways, let's move on to the items of Tier 2. There will be 5 of them, and they all change Isaac's tiers physically in some way. The first item is the Spoon Bender. This gives Isaac's tiers homing properties, but it also removes their flinching capability.
Why are they purple?
This gives Isaac a 3rd eye on his forehead, and it also changes the color of his tiers to purple. What has to happen to make you cry purple?
Yeah,
I don't think I want to know.
me too.
The second Tier 2 item can be the Cupid's Arrow. This will make Isaac's tiers pierce, causing them to only disappear when they reach the apex of their shot, and not after hitting a foe like they would normally. Potentially allowing you to hit multiple foes at once with a single shot. This gives Isaac a Native American headband. The next is Polyphemus. This increases the size of Isaac's tiers, making it easier to hit foes with, but it also slows down their firing rate. This gives Isaac one big gross eye, turning him into a Cyclops. The next Tier 2 item can be Soy Milk. This is the opposite of Polyphemus, shrinking the tiers, but also increasing their firing rate. However, this also slightly weakens them as well. Having this item will show milk covering Isaac's mouth. And for the final Tier 2 item, it can be the Technology. This is the most drastic item for the entire tier category, as it gives Isaac a robot eye and allows him to fire thin laser beams. These beams pierce and are much harder to avoid since they have a straight hitbox and are not considered projectiles, with the main downside being that their rate of fire is pretty bad. I should also mention that unlike in Binding of Isaac, they don't have an infinite range. They have the same range as the normal tiers, but not factoring in any other items. And now for Tier 3 of the tier category. This is the smallest tier with only 2 items, and these items will give Isaac's tiers secondary effects. The first is Fire Mine, which adds a fire attribute to Isaac's tiers, as well as slightly increases their power output. This gives Isaac a flaming eye on his forehead. I should also mention that his side and down smashes will also be affected by these items as well, since they do count as tier attacks. However, only the tier 3 items will change them. And in the case of Firemind, when Isaac creates the tier explosions with his smash attacks, instead of actual tiers, he'll just straight up create fiery explosions, making them much more powerful. Anyways, the final tier item can be Scorpio, which gives Isaac's tiers a chance to poison opponents. This changes the tears running down Isaac's face to the color green. If purple is bad, I really don't want to know what makes you cry green. In which case, before I continue, I should remind everyone that certain items replace others when picked up. To clarify, items will only start replacing each other if you pick up items that are in the same tier. So for example, if you pick up the lump of coal but only had Mom's heals, then you'd lose the heals for the coal. However, if you have Mom's heals but pick up the spoon bender, you'll get to keep both since they both exist in 2 separate tiers. And Isaac will get the benefits from both of them. This makes it so that you can make all kinds of combinations with a single item from each tier, but prevent you from stacking too many items and making Isaac way too powerful. This should also be kept in mind for the special category, which, as you can imagine, holds items that alter Isaac's special attacks. This also has 3 tiers, with each tier holding items specific to his neutral special, side special, and his missing down special. The up special won't have any alterations. It'll actually be one of the few moves that'll never be altered regardless of what items Isaac has, to assure that he at least has a consistent recovery option. But getting into the special category, starting with tier 1, these will be items that change the attributes of Isaac's neutral special. These items will not alter Isaac's appearance, by the way. They just change what kind of bombs he uses. So it will be up to you to remember what he has. The first bomb item can be Bob's Curse. This will make its explosions have a chance to poison its victims. The next bomb item can be the Bobby Bomb, a totally not subtle reference to a certain exclusive Mario enemy. These bombs will actually slowly move across the ground towards foes before blowing up. Then there's the Hot Bombs. These bombs leave fire on the ground after exploding, which can damage players who step in it until it peters out. Next is Mr. Boom, another basic bomb just like the base bomb, except it's slightly larger and slightly more powerful, also creating a bigger explosion as you would imagine. Then is Mr. Mega, which is even bigger and more powerful than Mr. Boom. These larger bombs are good and all, but remember, Isaac can be hurt by them too, so it is a double-edged sword. The next can be the Remote Detonator. This reverts Isaac to his basic bombs if he has something else, but as you can guess, this removes the 2-second automatic explosion that they have and makes it so that they'll only explode if Isaac himself detonates them, which he can do by tapping the special button again after laying down a bomb. However, the downside to this is that it limits Isaac to only being able to lay down 1 bomb at a time instead of 2, so pick your poison. And for the final bomb item that Isaac can find, it can be the Troll Bomb. Appropriate to their name, they're there to make life a little harder. They behave like the Bobby Bombs, except they don't follow an opponent around, they follow Isaac around. This is dangerous to have, but it could be useful for some mix-up since you can lead the bomb to wherever you want until it explodes. Well, that's it for the bomb tier. Now to the next one, which will consist of items to alter Isaac's side special, the Creep tier. The slide that Isaac does for his side special will still do the same thing. The only thing that the items from this tier do is change the color of the creep. Firstly, Aquarius is an option to pick up as an item. So if you changed the creep but want to change it back to blue, you can. But the second creep item can be the Toxic Shock, which changes the creep into a green color. It represents acid, so the creep left on the ground will hurt opponents if they walk on it. This will also change Isaac's appearance, making it so that his body glows a slight green radiant. And the last creep item for this side special tier can be the Ball of Tar, which turns the creep black like tar. This is the opposite of the blue creep, since it makes foes who walk on the black creep slower while walking on it. Having the Ball of Tar will turn Isaac's eyes yellow. Now there are 4 other creep types, but yeah, I'm not going to use those. They're red, yellow, brown, and white. And I'm leaving it at that. In any which case, for the final tier in the special category, this will be for Isaac's initially missing down special. As I said, at first, the down special doesn't do anything. The reason for that is because you're required to pick up an item from this tier in order to use it. As for what these items are, they consist of some of the game's various familiars. Using down special after collecting one of these familiar items will allow Isaac to summon the familiar that comes with the item that he picked up. Every familiar is different, and each behave in mostly different ways. As for who they are, I've chosen 8 of them, making this the largest tier out of any category. And just like with the bomb tier, this tier doesn't change Isaac's appearance, so you'll just need to remember what familiar you have. Every familiar can only remain up for a limited amount of time, and each one can also be attacked and killed by opponents. Regardless of how they leave the field, once they do, Isaac has to wait for 30 seconds before he can summon it again. And since he can't summon more familiars while one is already out, the 30-second cooldown doesn't start until the current one on screen leaves the field. Also, if you pick up a new familiar while you have a current one out, that current one will be replaced and will just disappear. But this will also reset the cooldown, so he won't be able to summon that new familiar until after 30 seconds pass. So be smart in when you collect those familiars. So starting with the first, there's the box of spiders. They're to ruin any arachnophobic stay. This summons 2 to 4 spiders that all crawl around on the ground following Isaac. They automatically latch onto any foe who gets too close to them, dealing non-flinching damage that racks up while they're latched on. So these are kind of like Pikmin in a sense. The spiders can remain out for 30 seconds at a time at most. The next familiar can be the leech. Like the spiders, this little guy follows Isaac around on the ground, albeit it's slower, having a harder time keeping up. Also like the spiders, if it gets too close to a foe, it'll latch onto them to rack up damage. Unlike the spiders, however, the leech has a weaker damage output, due in part to it being alone. However, when it does deal damage to foes, it causes flinching damage until shaken off. And then whatever half of that damage was that was dealt is automatically given to Isaac to heal him. The leech can only hang out for 20 seconds at a time. Next is the smart fly. This little guy hovers around Isaac at all times, generally remaining a pacifist. But it'll drop that pacifism in a snap the moment somebody harms Isaac, and it'll begin to attack the foe who did so, dealing up to 5% of non-flinching damage to them before returning to Isaac. It's good at what it does, but as such, it only lasts for 10 seconds at a time. The next familiar is the Guardian Angel. This little guy also orbits around Isaac like the smart fly, but the angel will never stop orbiting no matter what. Instead, it makes Isaac completely immune to projectiles, nullifying everything shot and thrown at Isaac. It also deals minimal non-flinching damage to foes if the angel touches them as it orbits Isaac. As such, it is his weakest familiar in terms of damage output, better for defensive purposes overall, and it only lasts for 10 seconds at a time. But now getting into the more directly offensive familiars, first there's Brother Bobby. This will follow behind Isaac and will shoot its own tears whenever Isaac shoots his into the same direction that Isaac shoots. It only ever shoots normal tears, but it still effectively doubles up on Isaac's tear shots, though they won't ever be fully aligned since the familiar is trailing behind, and moving around a lot will make the shots more spread out. But that could be a good thing depending on your playstyle. Brother Bobby only hangs out for 15 seconds at a time. Next is Little Gish. He behaves just like Brother Bobby, but he has a slightly slower firing rate. But that said, tears shot by Little Gish have a chance to slow foes down, making their movement sluggish for a short bit. Little Gish can only be out for about 15 seconds at a time. Then there's Robo Baby. He again behaves like Brother Bobby and Little Gish, but it shoots the piercing laser beam attack instead, and it also has a slower firing rate. It's only out for about 12 seconds before it vanishes. And finally, there's Seraphim, who, again, behaves like the prior 3 mentioned, but it defaults to shooting homing tears that deal non-flinching damage, and it, again, has a slower firing rate. Seraphim is only out for about 12 seconds. And that's it for the special category. Again, you can only have one of each, so the wide variety can help make for a lot of interesting combinations. But that said, the final category, the other one, doesn't have that limitation, but it also doesn't consist of any tiers. Instead, it just has 5 items, each that more so qualify as quality of life changes for Isaac's moveset more than anything else. You're able to have all of them at once, so picking up one item from the other category will not replace any other that you may have. Starting with the first, there are batteries, which aren't actually items for you to pick up and keep. Instead, what they'll do is eliminate any current familiar cooldown that you may have as soon as you pick it up, making it so that you can use a familiar immediately after getting the battery. Next is telekinesis. This actually extends Isaac's
Maddox, stop! I'm doing a reaction video.
It won't actually improve the quality of the spin of his throws, just make it easier to grab opponents. Next is the My Little Unicorn Horn. The only thing that changes to Isaac's moveset when he collects this is his dash attack, replacing the Ares ram horns with a single long unicorn horn when he lunges for the tackle. This new horn increases the range and damage of the dash attack, and it also gives Isaac a slight amount of super armor, making it a little safer to use overall. After that is the Fanny Pack item. This makes it so that the Binding of Isaac items will actually begin to appear more often as Isaac's damage percent increases. And not only that, it makes it so that 4 items can be on screen at once instead of just 3.
Stop
so
it!
This will only proc if Isaac's damage reaches at least 50%. And finally, for the last item that Isaac can find among his large amount of loot, it could be Capricorn. This is a temporary item. It makes it so that all of Isaac's attributes will be powered up for 10 seconds. His speed, damage, lag, it's all improved. Overall, turning him into a much better character for the 10 seconds that he has its effects. And that's everything. All of the items that Isaac can potentially collect to change his moveset around to your liking. Well, so long as you're lucky enough to get what it is you're looking for, that is. I know, it may seem a little overwhelming at first to have so many options to effectively customize Isaac.
Okay.
And at the game's mercy, no less. But that's just how the Binding of Isaac is. You're at the game's mercy at all times. What items, power-ups, and even enemies that show up are completely random. But even then, these collectibles don't actually change the moveset itself. Just its attributes. No matter what you have equipped, you can still play Isaac the same way. You're just given new things to keep in mind to take advantage of. Plus, it's not like you can get overwhelmed with too many things. That's why I put the tier limiter on. I mean, aside from keeping Isaac from getting too busted, that is. Even if you get an item from every tier and all the items that you can actually hold on to from the other category, you'd only be able to hold 9 items at most. 10 if you have Capricorn. Coming up with the different combinations that the game throws at you, I think would be a lot of fun to do. It really allows you to flex that big brain of yours to pull all kinds of unique attacks, just like when playing Binding of Isaac. With all of that said, however, there is one super important detail to keep in mind about everything for Isaac. In the Binding of Isaac, if you die, that's the end of that run, and you're forced to start over from scratch. And when that happens, you lose everything that you collected up to that point. So as such, for Smash, whenever Isaac loses a stock, he loses everything. And will be forced to recollect his items again. That may seem harsh, but any item currently on the stage that Isaac didn't collect will still remain there even after he's KO'd, so that can allow you to save some reserves, so that way you're not totally naked when respawning. You need to take advantage of what the game's giving you, and use it as your own. You gotta do the big brain plays, otherwise you might just end up sucking. Oh, and speaking of sucking, I'll just mention this now real quick. If Kirby sucks up Isaac and gains his neutral special bombs, then Kirby will be able to pick up some of Isaac's items. Only the bomb items. That way Kirby can also use the different kinds of bombs. That will be the one exception of other players aside from Isaac Dittos being able to interact with the Binding of Isaac items. And speaking of Isaac Dittos, it's 3 items at most per Isaac. So if there's 2 Isaacs playing, then 6 items can be on stage at most. And all Isaacs can interact with any item regardless. Which I'm sure would lead to all kinds of interesting but fun chaos.
The final smash.
For Isaac's final smash, he can have him use the number 2 tarot card, the High Priestess. Isaac will pull out the card, and a reticle will appear on screen that you can move around. By pressing the special button for automatically after 5 seconds, suddenly out of nowhere, the grotesque leg of his mother will stomp down into the spot where the reticle was. The leg keeps going down until it hits a solid part of the stage, meaning that it will ignore platforms. Any foe hit by the leg will be dealt major damage and knockback. And if a foe ends up with more than 100% of damage when they get hit by that leg, it's an automatic KO.
Ouch!
The only other thing to note about this final smash is that if the reticle is over a bottomless pit, then the mother's leg will just automatically smash into the spot that Isaac is standing in, as if to punish poor Isaac for trying to lead her into the blast zone, among other reasons. This won't actually hurt Isaac, it's just sad in context. Sorry to say, but I'm going to avoid giving Isaac any alternate costume. I know he
What?
has plenty of options, but with how I built this moveset, and to make sure that you can properly see the alterations on Isaac's character from the various items that he can collect, having his base appearance be simple, I feel is best. As such, his default design can be his usual skin tone. And for his alternate colors, this can reference the colors that his skin can change to in the game after collecting certain powers. The first would be a pure black skin, based off a variety of items like Abaddon, Brimstone, Ball of Tar. The list goes on for this one, honestly. Next could be light blue skin, referencing powers like anti-gravity or juice. Then light green skin, referencing some of the more sickly-based power-ups.
Ew.
Then there's brown skin, which is what he normally gets when he collects Capricorn or even others like Sagittarius. Next could be white skin, based off power-ups like Dead Dove or Ouija-board.
Okay, that's just weird.
And golden skin, referencing the Midas and such power.
He looks like One Punch Man.
And finally, red skin, coming from the SMB Super Fan power-up, which in and of itself is a reference to Super Meat Boy. For his stage intro, it can have him teleport to the stage using the number 0 tarot card, the Fool, which was used if you wanted to teleport Isaac back to the starting room of a floor.
Cool.
Taunts, the first can have poor Isaac cover his head and start shaking in a panic before calming down, and the second can have him giving a little thumbs up towards the screen. These are all things that Isaac did whenever he obtained certain power-ups. And the final can have him look around, then look sad. That is, unless he has a familiar with him, in which case that familiar will hover around him as Isaac watches it.
Oh,
And
that's
finally,
cute.
the first can show the poor boy crying on the ground in a fetal position as random memories are shown in the dream bubble above him, referencing between level loading screens. The next can show Isaac opening a trapdoor in the ground, only for him to hear the sound of his mother's voice. Isaac! He turns around in a panic, then jumps down the trap hole with it shutting behind him. This references how he's just trying to escape from his mother.
That's harsh.
He successfully completed another floor, so now it's time to move on to the next one. And his final can show Isaac opening up a toy chest, and after rummaging through it a bit, he pulls out a quarter, looking proud of himself. This references